JP, unmute yourself, my man.
What up?
How are you, buddy? Keeping the mustache going.
Hey, can't shave it, man. Gotta keep it going strong.
Hey, buddy, it's looking good, man. It's looking real good.
Thank you.
I like it, man. I love it. It looks awesome.
Something different.
You and Nassau are going with the Freddie Mercury, look from, Queen.
I know. He sent me a picture of him too.
I love it. I love it. So JP, just to give you a heads up, we will start right at noon. Throughout all of these at noon, there's 6 to 10 people, and then all of a sudden it gains momentum a couple minutes into it, all the way up to 12:10, and there's 30 or 40 people. So,
Maybe.
But
might just get 5.
I am recording this.
Cool.
So I will send it to you so you can use. Allie will edit it, and then she will. And then she'll edit it and then send it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it, buddy.
How's the day been?
It's been good, buddy. Day's been good. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. Talking about some of my favorite things.
I know, man. It's what you do. I like the shirt you have on too. The YP.
Gotta represent.
You got to represent. That's right. Well, you're the man of it. So
I got these stacked up here on books, so try to keep it.
Yeah.
In my face.
So we'll start right at noon, okay, bud?
Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to shaving, man. When I said this was, I was gonna keep this going the whole time. Might be another 45 days.
Exactly. Don't clog the drain.
I know, right? Yeah.
You should, before you fully get rid of it, just leave the
yeah, right.
yeah, handlebar mustache.
There it is. All right,
And you
bud.
just have to order some wax.
That's right. All right, it's noon, so we're gonna get started. Thanks for everybody joining so far. So today I'm super excited to introduce Jordan Pyle with the Pyle Residential Group, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. Jordan, you were named 30 under 30 by the National Association of Realtors.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that, buddy. I know you worked hard on that.
That was a long time coming, so felt good to check that one off the list, and obviously grateful for everybody for helping me get there. So
yeah,
super cool. Yeah.
So Jordan, a little bit about you. Tell us, how long have you been in the business?
So this is 2020 is year 7.
Year 7.
Got in beginning of 2014. Yep. Okay.
So you've been in the business. What does your business look like right now? So how do you have a team? Are you a solo agent? What sort of transactions are you doing?
Yeah, so started building a team last year. So that kind of contributed to my last full year of numbers in terms of how much production, how many deals. But yeah, 2019 ended around 25 sales, about 36 total transactions. For just under 10 million in production. So right now it's just myself in terms of the team, but I do have a transaction coordinator, and I am utilizing our listing manager within the Keller Williams office as well. So have a little bit of leverage there, but for the most part, just doing it on my own. Obviously, I have a ton of mentors and people like that around me as well.
Awesome. And what's your vision for your business, Jordan? What are you building? What are you working towards?
It's a big question, man. Depends how far we're looking, what the scope is. But in general, for me, it's leveraging myself out of the business. I feel like my calling is a higher level than out in the field every day. And I don't mean that in any type of way. I just mean I feel like I am really drawn to the bigger picture stuff. So the more macro stuff versus the day in, day out operational items. So definitely want to grow this out to give other people a bunch of opportunity, underneath the platform of Pyle Residential. I want to invest in real estate. I want to be part of the growth of Keller Williams within Chicago and nationwide. But really, if I had to break it down to a number in terms of transactions, I want to be the first guy to do 1,000 transactions in Chicago. So that's about a 5-year vision or so.
Jordan, you and I talk a lot. We're good buds, mentor, mentee. You know, you mentor me sometimes, I mentor you sometimes, right? I've asked this question before, Jordan, to you and to others. But in 5 years from now, if you had your perfect career, what would it look like?
Man, you're coming in hot today with these questions, making me think here. No, but I mean, it's a lot of what I just talked about. You know, it's having multiple streams of income where I can work because I want to work. I truly feel like that today. Like nothing I do today is work or life. It's all kind of fused together into one. But I want to have the ability to, you know, have time with my family, to be able to give back to people that are in a, you know, less fortunate situation than myself. And ultimately, I just really like the leadership side of it. So being to a point where I can, you know, prove a certain level of success where then I can go and share that with other people. I'm starting to do that a little bit with some of the things I'm involved with, and I definitely have a passion there. So coaching, speaking, definitely want to write a book someday. But I think the core generator of everything that I want to do is going to be my resale business. So that's going to be Pyle Residential. And I think that will allow me then to branch off and ultimately just build a life that's holistic. You know, I think, you know, Jay-Z, you and I talk a lot about it, but business and real estate is just one thing for me. You know, I'm super into personal development, super into health and fitness, and really testing the limits of what I think I'm capable of. And a lot of that's going to be, you know, result in adventure type stuff too, eventually. So yeah. I want to climb some mountains, you know, so I want to have the ability to work when I want to, have a good income, to be able to also just take a lot of time off and spend that with the people I love.
You touched on this a little bit, but Jordan, for the people who don't know you, who is Jordan Pyle? Are you married, single? You know, what do you have family? Where are you from? Who's Jordan Pyle?
I appreciate that question. So originally from Fort Wayne, Indiana. So I'm single today in terms of my personal relationships. But yeah, I got a sister.
One of your goals to go on The Bachelor, or are you gonna?
Someone actually sent me an application the other day. It wasn't The Bachelor, but it was for some other like love show on MTV or some shit like that. But sorry, I'm not
Blind date.
Yeah, something like that. Love is Blind. There it is. Someone put that in the comments. But
your boy JW's on, got your back.
Yeah. What was the question? Oh yeah. So yeah, no. So just real estate. You know, like I said, I'm super passionate. I'm from Indiana. Both my parents live in Ohio. I have a sister. I have a baby niece who's obviously super important to me, and you know that's a lot of the fuel for my passion. And but yeah, really just a genuine, authentic dude trying to make an impact on this world.
What's a fun fact about Jordan Pyle that, you know, us that know you wouldn't know about you?
Man. A fun fact. I always struggle with this question. I'm not gonna lie. I think one that I've shared in the past is, and some people know it, but I'm allergic to bananas. So yeah. So okay. Don't have those around. Don't want to end up in the ER room again. So, but yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard that, JP, not only from you, but that people could be allergic from bananas. So
yeah, it's weird. It doesn't go well with training for an Ironman either.
All right. So Jordan, we're going to dive into mindset. And what I want to do is talk about your different pillars right now that you got going on in your business and how you approach this really kind of all together and, you know, and individually on the pillars. Okay. So the pillars that I see is, you know, you got your real estate business. You are leading, you know, the YP for Keller Williams in the Chicago chapter, right?
Yeah.
You're going for your first Ironman, which you've never even done a triathlon, correct?
That's correct.
And you're just going right to the top to the Ironman.
Yep.
Right. And then you had 30 under 30, right?
Yeah, I think that's all. I wouldn't say those are necessarily the pillars of my business. I would say those are the pillars
of these conversations. This conversation.
Right? Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly.
These are our 4 buckets we're going to jump into.
Cool.
So let's start with 30 under 30 because that was the most recent accomplishment that you got, right? So huge accomplishment. Congratulations, by the way. Thank you. I know personally that this was important to you. So let's walk through it. What was the driving force? What was your mindset? Okay, first and foremost, and then go into the strategy of what you did to accomplish and get that goal.
Yeah, I was talking about this the other day, and it gave me the opportunity to really reflect on the origination for the desire to even be nominated for it. And it started when I got into business. I still have magazines from the old 30 under 30s every single year that I've just had stacks of them. I look at them, read through them all the time. And in the beginning of my career, it was just, hey, this seems super cool. Like I would love to be in that magazine one day. It was all that. It wasn't anything to do with impact or the platform of what it actually allows me to now go and do. But as I've continued working over time, it's become a lot more about impacting my the things that I'm involved with. So my community locally, but also my realtor community. That's why I'm super involved with young professionals, both with KWYP and then the local association, the chair of the YPN board. It's just because I got in this business and didn't have a growth environment to really help me figure things out right away. So I'm not that success story of someone that got into the business and within a year just was selling 100 homes. Like it was a struggle for the first 3 years in the business, and every single year it's still a struggle. You just have different levels of, new levels, new devils, so to speak. So as I continue to grow and evolve, not only as a business person, but as a human, and as really who I am at my core, it became a lot bigger than, what I do today is selling real estate is just an avenue of the way I make money, but really it's about just impacting all those around me to essentially, I'm a big believer about like anything is possible, with the right amount of intention, discipline, focus, like we all can create anything that we want to create. And I know I'm just scratching the surface of that. So now, having the opportunity to get this nomination, I see this as a huge platform. It's a huge platform to me to be able to take what I've learned over, just 6.5 years now of really diving deep into business and leadership and personal development and my spirituality. Now it's a bigger platform for me to relay the message in a better way, because I think the ripple effect is very real. So if I can lead by example and then have an impact on others to go out there and do something that they didn't think was possible, that's really like what about being part of this group is about for me. And it's 30 people around the country that have similar mindsets. So now I can tap into these networks, and I would be lying if I said that this hasn't, or like 30 under 30 and YPN, like I get actual leads from it as well. So now this is 30% of my business is agent referrals from being involved in these networks. So it's a lot bigger now than it was when it started.
When did you decide that you wanted to be 30 under 30? Was it right when you got into the business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was 23, and now I'm 29. So I applied last year.
Yeah.
For some people that know me, made it to the 50 finalists and then got cut before the final 30. And that was motivation, honestly. That email, going back to mindset, the email of me not getting it last year has been sitting on my desk in front of me ever since the day that I got the email. So that's just fueled my passion to go out there and kind of build up the resume a little bit more and add in things that I know I'm super passionate about. And then I think, just positioning myself and really crafting like a theme of an application, which this year for me was all about self-leadership exceeds like leadership. So how that transpires from yourself out to the world that you live in. And I think that was kind of the tipping point of being able to get it this year.
Jordan, you mentioned environment in this conversation already.
Yeah.
How does your personal business environment help you with your mindset, fuel your mindset?
I think it's that absolute most critical thing. I mean, I think referencing back to what I was saying about in the beginning, I didn't have the model. I didn't have a guide. I didn't have people around me that were doing the things I wanted to do. So ever since about 3 years in the business, I've become so intentional and purposeful about surrounding myself with the people that I want to have around me. People, of course, people that are levels ahead. Of course, people that are at the same level that are all kind of helping get to that next point. And then it became really, really important over time for me to have people around me that I could also bring up. So being able to share with others. I mentioned this on the podcast the other day, but someone talks about, and I stole this from somebody else, but they talk about like, it's lonely at the top, right? If you hit this level of success, it's lonely at the top. And, I thought it was brilliant when I heard that if it's lonely at the top, then you're not doing a good job being a leader, because if no one's following you up to the top, then what does that have to say about yourself? So I think having that environment around you just pushes you, it holds you accountable. And people are always watching, people rely on you. You have to have that integrity to do what you say you're going to do. Ultimately you don't know who you're impacting by someone that might be watching what you're doing. So I think it's equally as important about what you do in the light as what you do when no one's looking.
Got it. That's impactful. Appreciate you sharing that. So yeah, I mean, we hear Gary Keller has said that success is boring, right? You're saying lonely at the top, and you kind of gave the explanation of that. But the Gary Keller has said success is boring because that means, if you're successful, that means you're doing the same repetition every day, right? And you're mastering stuff. So
we've had this conversation many times, and I'll be honest. I mean, I think for me, you're right. Like success is simple, it's not easy.
right.
And success is boring because if you're doing the right things day in and day out, I mean, creativity can only be implemented. And I'm speaking to myself as I'm saying this, but creativity can only be implemented once you master consistency. And there's a lot of things in my life that I feel like I'm incredibly consistent with.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, my business, like activities, like making my phone calls and doing my follow-ups, like there's so much room for improvement there year in, year out. So I know that is something that ultimately will drive that forward. And it's just embracing the suck and being willing to suffer, essentially.
Let's talk about that journey for you now that we did this. I'm fortunate enough to coach with you once a week, right? And I know your successes and I know your struggles. And you said to me in this conversation to prep for this call is that, I've always been creative and I'll say it, you were always being creative instead of consistent on systems, right? And now you've pivoted on that a little bit. So talk about the impact and tell the audience like, hey, how you struggled with that, right? And now since you pivoted, what are some of the successes you're seeing?
Yeah, like I said, it's definitely a work in progress. I'll just speak from the business side of things, but yeah, I mean, I'm antsy. I want to say yes to everything. I'm very bad at saying no. I mean, I'm definitely a yes man. I know it's a strength and a weakness. But if you really want to accomplish something, you got to go super deep in it versus going wide.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the light bulb that everyone knows. Everyone knows what to do. But it's a matter of like, when you face that thing in your calendar that you got to do, are you going to do it or not? And there's a lot of times I've let myself off the hook. But the fastest growth I've seen is when I've stayed committed to, and it comes in spurts. It's definitely not every single day. I would love it to be, but everyone that time blocks knows it's just not possible. Like having that in your calendar, knowing that you've reserved space for doing everything that you want to do, and then just executing that when the time comes. Like if you can just add that in every single day and let that compound over time, obviously you're going to make monumental progress versus trying one thing one day, trying something else on Tuesday, and then doing something else on Friday, right? So I'm still figuring out what those things are for me because I realized, it's not going to be picking up the phone and calling people every day. There's other ways that I know that I resonate with people and that I like to do. You have to want to do that thing every day too, even though it might suck. So don't force yourself to do something if you know you're not going to do it. So try to modify it a little bit so that it is something that you can do day in and day out. And even though it might feel like a drag, it's at least something that's kind of in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I think we all struggle with that, right? It's that constant struggle of just like, oh yeah, I know I'm supposed to do this, but I don't want to. So you've made a decision on, hey, I'm going to do what I want to do and what I have fun with and what I like doing. Is that correct?
Yeah, like I said, I think in my business, it's lagging a little bit. Like I feel very disciplined in every other category of my life. Like, and this is actually something that hit me this morning when I was just in my morning routine. And it comes back to business. And I think the business will catch up, but it's like the personal life and the discipline there first is really where I really feel pretty confident. And it's like I woke up this morning knowing that I had to go on a run. Like I was just doing a 4-mile run this morning. But I opened the blinds and I saw that it was snowing out. And immediately my mind was like, oh, well, you could just work out later, or you could just ride your bike or do some sit-ups or something like that. And now I'm starting to recognize is when I see those triggers of like, you don't want to do that, like that's what you got to do. And then like when I was in the shower, like I've been trying to do cold showers, and the last minute of that shower, it was so nice being warm, but my mind was like, you should turn it cold and finish out the last minute of the shower. So as soon as I recognized like, oh, I don't want to do that, I turned it cold and I did it, right? So I think that needs to catch up in my business when I recognize those things that are like the things that make you uncomfortable. Those are ultimately the things that are going to force the growth faster than anything else. So it's a constant work in progress, like I said.
Got it. So Jordan, we're going to go back. We're going to talk about your mindset approaching this Ironman as well, right? In your business and stuff. But Alex Watson wants to ask you this question. What was the turning point for you after those first 3 struggle years Was there an aha moment or just just gradually getting more and more business over time?
There wasn't definitely not an aha moment, but there was a few factors that definitely played into starting to go, like what they say, you can run super fast, but if you're running in the wrong direction, it doesn't make any sense. And I was running super fast in the wrong direction. So it goes back to the environment, the growth environment. I found people about 3 years in. I found a couple mentors. I was trying to do everything myself. I found mentors. This is right around the time I started getting linked up with Keller Williams. I met Josh Weinberg. I met Tommy, Joe, Shoes, and I started realizing like this is my tribe. And then I started realizing that these are people that are already where I want to go. So like just listen to what they're telling me to do. So I think it goes back to the creativity thing too, but just really understanding that I got to treat my business like a business. I got to look at it as a business if I want to accomplish the things I want to accomplish, because we can only do so much on our own. And I think that was embracing the idea of like, hey, to leverage this business out, you got to surround yourself with people. It's not necessarily doing more deals. It's like all about who you surround yourself with.
So Jordan, I can speak personally that, hey, you recognized it, right? And you said, hey, this is what I want, where I want to be. But you also put yourself out there and you basically said, hey, I want to be where you guys are at. Show me how to do it. What advice would you give for the person? And I'm not using Alex as an example, but I'm just going to use it as name. If Alex asked that question, what would be your advice to someone like Alex? If Alex is saying like, hey, how do I do that? Like, do I just go up and say something to somebody? How did you approach it?
Yeah, I think it's leading with like just wanting to get better, to always be learning based. So people that know me know I'm a vigorous, like I'm a very deep thinker. I want to analyze things. I want to take really good notes. I want to have conversations with people that inspire me and that I know can show me the way. So it's just a matter of coming, with like an authentic ask of like, hey, honestly, this was the conversation I had when I was starting. It was like, hey, I admire people like yourself, people that have achieved this level of success in whatever it is that they're doing. I know that at one point in time, someone gave you an opportunity and I'm asking for an opportunity. Can we grab coffee? Can we sit down? Can we talk about this or that? Honestly, I started doing that about 2 or 3 years into the business, with just people around the industry that I didn't know. And then I just made it very clear to people that are now in my world, yourself being one of those, and some other people on this call, that I want to be, and I'm going to be at this position, being confident in my own abilities. And then it comes back to walking the talk and not just talking the talk. So making those claims that, hey, I want to affiliate in this type of way and I want to level up, people will start coming out of the woodwork once you declare that that's what you want to do.
Got it. Let's pivot for a second here, Jordan. You came to me and said, hey, I got this huge goal I'm going to do, and I'm just going to put it out there because I want everyone to know I'm doing it. And I thought you were going to throw a transaction number at me or something, right? And you said, I'm going to complete an Ironman this year, right? So what fueled that? What is your mindset behind that? What is your system behind it?
Yeah. So good old buddy, John Schumacher here. I can see you sitting there. We talk a lot about The One Thing. Everyone at KW, but if you've never read the book, The One Thing is an amazing book, obviously. But we talk about, I'm going to butcher this, but if you could do one thing that then therefore makes everything else easier or unnecessary, what is that thing? And so in October of last year, in 2019, I was really just analyzing like where I wanted to go, what my goals were, both financially, transactionally, health and fitness wise, like spirituality, every holistic area of my life. And I was like, okay, maybe it's 50 transactions, but that felt like it was missing something that was going to empower the other categories of my life. It was like very focused in business and finances. So when I really scaled it back, I was like, what's going to force discipline into my life that is going to then create discipline in every single category? And I realized that something crazy like an Ironman, something that is, almost a 12, depending who you are, almost a 12-hour endurance race, like it's going to require me to put 3 to 4 hours of working out in every single day. And fortunately for me, that's something I really love to do.
Yeah.
But I knew that having that level of commitment to something and putting it out to the world that people were gonna notice if I didn't do it, right? So I didn't want to cheat myself, and I didn't want to cheat anybody else. So it became this thing that was like, it's so monumental in my head. And obviously people do Ironmans all the time, so it's really not that big of a thing if you really look at everyone that's out there. But I knew that this was going to make me be very structured in the way that I built my days, the way I built my weeks, the way I leveraged people in my business or systems and tools, processes to allow me to go and train 4 hours a day. Because if I don't have a plan for this, then it's not gonna be possible. So that was the original reason I kind of chose that this is what it's gonna be.
So how does that's awesome, Jordan. Thank you. And like, yeah, people do Ironman all the time, but they don't do it as their first race that they ever do. So you got a big goal here, right? How does the Ironman correlate to your business and fueling your mind? Like, like give advice to people saying like, hey, maybe it's not an Ironman, but it's something else. And here's what fuels your mind and why you're doing it.
Yeah. It all comes back to business for sure. But there's a couple of things with the Ironman. And first off, when you declare something that is so big that like you have to find people, you have to find resources around it to make it come into fruition. It kind of like every single day that you do something, it's almost like you're a toddler learning from crawling to walking to running, whatever the case may be. So every single day I experience struggle. Every single day I experience breakthroughs. And every single day I'm reminded that I got more in the tank. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that like when we think we're at 100%, whether it's on our phone calls or if we're doing a workout or whatever the case may be, when we feel we're at 100%, we're really at like 40%. And I'm stealing that from our buddy David Goggins, but it's really like made me think about like, well, how far can you really go? And I'm starting to have that reaffirmed every single day in my training. Is like, oh wow, like I just went another hour further than I thought I could go on the bike when it started hurting. Mm-hmm. So I think that has then created this like, okay, to grow my business, I have to do the things I don't want to do, which is like the training, which is like putting 3 hours in on a bike ride on a Tuesday morning, because it's the future, the long-term goal is worth it enough. Yeah. The long-term goal is what makes me do the day in and day out actions. So I think it's the infinite game, to kind of circle it back to everything. Mm-hmm. I've never been afraid to like put in the daily effort. Like I've always showed up. For the last 6.5 years, I've showed up, and I think that's half the battle. And then once you're there, then your body tells you, it's like going out for a run and you're like, I'm going to do 6 miles, and you get out there, you're like, oh shoot, I'm a mile in, I don't want to go any further. But then you hit this certain point where it's like, I just did 2 miles, like now I cannot not do 6 miles.
Right.
Like, I don't know about anyone else, but I get this thing in my head that's like, okay, now you just broke through another level. Like you're already here, you might as well finish what you said you're going to do.
That's awesome. All right, so you 30 under 30, you're doing an Ironman. The other thing you do is the Chicago YP, Chicago Association of Realtors YP, right? And then the Keller Williams National YP. So that's another pillar, right, of these conversations.
Yeah.
So, man, I mean, so far we've covered. All right, you're 29 years old, you're 30 under 30, you're doing an Ironman. You got a good business. We're going to talk about your business. And then you're leading in 2 different chapters, both one nationally and one locally.
Yeah.
What fuels you there, and what's your mindset and your approach on that?
Yeah, the leadership positions with KWYP and YPN were, it started as something that I was uncomfortable with. Like it was actually Tommy Choi that was like, hey, like you're building something very special, and I can tell you're building it, but you're missing an element to it. And after doing some digging, I realized that element was like that pulling people up portion. So I was surrounding myself with the right people. I was growing myself, but I realized I wasn't in a position to really pull other people up and make them more and support them in being more successful. So that's kind of where it started. And it in the beginning, it was just kind of to be a part of the YPN committee. And then right around that same period of time, about 6 months later, I had an opportunity to start and found with Dave Nasso the Keller Williams Young Professional chapter. So really it comes back to 3 things for me, which I think are integral in anybody's success. And it's education, collaboration, and camaraderie. So it's another environment to hold me accountable. Like I basically built out these environments in my life that like, it doesn't let me slack off. Like at this point, like I've created these things and put people around me that I have no choice but to push through every single day. And then the leadership thing became just more, it's almost more exciting to see other people succeed around you than it is for you to succeed yourself. And I definitely realized that about a year into my, what I'll call my leadership journey with YPN. And then it comes down to like being able to affect change, like I said. So being in these positions and not only being on a board, but stepping up into a leadership position in everything that I do. I think there's a huge difference there. It's like people can do things, but then people can lead the things that they do. And I think that for me is like, it's going to allow doors to open that I never thought could be opened. And then I can also create a bigger world that we talk about all the time, that then I can impact other people along the way. If I'm doing it all for myself, then it doesn't carry the weight of we're doing this together.
Right.
That's a huge part for that.
Jordan, talk to us about that's being involved. You're involved in something, right? And you chose the YP chapters both in Chicago and nationally for Keller Williams. But why? What has it done for your business?
Simply put, it's a third of my business now. So agent to agent referrals and it wasn't like this. And it wasn't ever the intention of getting involved, wasn't to do more deals, but just forming those relationships. It's actually super cool now when I really think about what I have. And, you know, being the president of the Chicago chapter with Keller Williams, like I know a minimum of one person in every single city around the country, one young professional that's just as serious as I am about leveling up and continuing to learn and to go to another level and to collaborate and to educate and always learn. Like I have people like that stationed around the country. So now when they, you know, I'm giving to them and I'm pointing to them and they're pointing to me. And when they think about Chicago, both for KWYP and also just being the chair of our local association, now all those people, when they hear of someone needing someone from Chicago, I'm the first person they think of because I'm in that leadership position and because I'm intentionally present in those interactions as well. So now, I mean, I don't want to say without even doing anything, I get leads from it, but that's kind of how it feels. Like I'm getting calls. It's like, hey, I know you're the president of the chapter here. Like I have a client looking to sell, or I have a client looking to buy. And this year so far, I think I have 4 or 5 deals from YP under contract. And I've probably gotten over 25 referrals in the last 2 years from it.
The people that are on this call, would you give them advice of, hey, get involved in something?
Yeah, I would for sure. And that can be it can be a lot of different things. So I like to break this down. So like for me, it's like these buckets, and I stole this from someone else again. I rip off and duplicate a lot, but that's, I think, what we should all do. And
it's what everyone does.
So it's like business is one, right? And this is in terms of like defining what my life consists of, which I think talks about like, should people give back? Like, well, is it in their plan of their life to give back? And for most people, it is in some shape or form. So for me, it's like my business, which includes like real estate, entrepreneurship, marketing. I have my health and fitness pillar. If you're talking about the pillars of my life, I have my personal development pillar, and then I have my involvement pillar. My involvement is Keller Williams Young Professionals, YPN, and then Alzheimer's Association, making sure that the things I'm passionate about, I have dedicated time in my life plan, so to speak, to make sure that equates to my calendar. So yeah, I think 100% you should have something to give back to a cause that you're passionate about, because that makes everything else feel much more great when you accomplish things.
Jordan, what was your expectation of getting involved in these? You know, what was your expectation walking into it? And then what, you know, you touched on it a little bit of what it become, but how did it, I guess, at this point exceed your expectation?
Oh man. You're saying just getting involved in general?
Yeah, just getting involved in general. Like, what was your expectation of just, hey, I'm going to do this, but here's what happened to you, right? You got involved and you became a leader very quickly.
Yeah. So that's a good point. And that's not where I was going to go with it, but I think that identified what this has really done. Becoming a leader, it really exposed a lot of my weaknesses. So there's a lot of things that I had to say, oh, wow, well, that conversation or that meeting or that speech I just gave or whatever it is, like before I stepped up in these leadership positions, like I was absolutely petrified of public speaking. Yeah. Now I like yearn for it. Like now I look for these like awkward or like uncomfortable times. So I think the involvement has just, it's changed me personally more than it's changed me on a professional level. And then that just, you know, that transpires into my business. Yeah. So I don't really know the best way
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, you're on a pretty powerful personal development journey. But before we go into your journey here, real quick, did you ever think? I guess that's this. Did you ever think that you would be speaking nationally at
No.
29?
Well, I had aspirations to speak one day, but again, like I just said, I was always so nervous of it, but I knew it was something in my future that was gonna, and then once I started doing these things, I started realizing I really liked that feeling. And yeah, it's already from the 30 under 30 and, you know, being involved, and that's coming from getting that nomination is a lot to do with what I'm involved in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just production, it's influence, you know, around the people around you, and then involvement and how you make it, like I said, an impact in your community. And that's your community of Alzheimer's, your community of the local environment or geographic area you serve, as well as your realtor community.
Right.
So yeah, it's awesome because I love speaking. I like sharing with people. And I plan to leverage this into much more of this type of stuff too, as I grow.
So let me get this straight and let me give clarity to people. Okay. You're 30 under 30, right? You're, again, YPN, president of the KW chapter, vice president of the Chicago. Is that right? Or just chair?
I'm the current chair for 2020.
Current chair. And then you're running a very profitable and successful real estate business. So let's go into, what does a typical day look like for Jordan Pyle, and how does he structure his days?
Man, that question, it's a big one. It's been modified numerous times. But
okay, so let me pause you there.
Yep.
So it wasn't perfect the first week you did it?
Far from it. I think it's the biggest challenge in my life is figuring out what my day-to-day looks like. So I've actually opted to go more of like, what's my perfect week?
Right.
Day to day, sometimes it doesn't give you enough time to account for the things you don't expect to happen. So, but really to go to your question is, I am huge on, I have to start my day a certain way and I have to end my day a certain way. Everything that happens in between is that work in progress, you know, section I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's like you have to have your morning routine. So I actually have, you know, people think I'm crazy, and there's days I don't do this. Like there's days I don't wake up at 5 a.m., but the majority of my days, it's 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. is personal time for me to do my morning routine. So that's 4 hours a day right there.
What does that consist of, Jordan?
I'm sorry?
What does that consist of? 5 to 9.
Oh, it's the Miracle Morning. So if anyone knows Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, it's the SAVERS acronym. So it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing or journaling. So it's a combination of that. But the big two for me are that I think are just like above anything else that I do in the morning is my workout and meditation. Mm-hmm. Those two things, that combination is lethal. Like I know the days I don't do it, like I know why I feel the way I feel.
Yeah. So so talk about that. How do you feel? If you know how you feel like when you don't do it, what is that feeling like?
When you don't do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just feel like you're running into, you have no game plan. You feel like you're scatterbrained. You feel like you're rushed. It builds a lot of anxiety. Like anxiety, I'm a super anxious person, and I've always been. So it's definitely helped me kind of like understand that like everything's gonna be fine, and you're building this all out. But I think that goes back to like structuring your day, knowing that, hey, you have time for that thing, that's that distraction later on in your calendar. Like you put some time there to account for that.
Right.
So I think that is like what was your original question? I'm sorry.
No, so if you don't do it, it makes you feel like what? Like you know, just like almost lost, right? Is what you're explaining?
For sure. Yeah.
And how do you feel when you do it?
Yeah, I mean that morning period it's like it feels like you're like every single day you're resetting yourself. You're getting ready. You're putting on your armor to go and face whatever the day is going to throw at you. So I think it just prepares you, get your mind in the right spot to be able to be a grounded opinion, to be able to analyze situations and not just be reactive, but to be purposeful. And then when something that does happen that you didn't plan for, having that combination in the morning, it really centers yourself so that you can respond accordingly and kind of remain. I think in our jobs, you know, as realtors, like real estate agents, we got to be that grounded, unbiased opinion for our clients. We have to be that soundboard. And without that, if I'm dealing with things because I woke up late and I didn't get my routine in the morning, and now I'm jumping to conclusions or I'm giving bad advice to a client, like that doesn't happen when I put in the work to make sure that I feel mentally ready for the day first. So yeah, it's absolutely critical for me to wake up and pour into myself before I can pour into others.
It's almost like when we hear put your oxygen mask on first so you can help others, right?
Yeah.
That your approach? That's how you're looking at it?
Yeah, that's how I describe it all the time. That's exactly what it is. You can't make as big of a difference as you want to make if you're not taking care of yourself first. Because without this, we have nothing. Without our bodies, without our minds.
Jordan, you and I have talked about this a lot because you know that I do a very similar thing that you do, waking up early and getting my day set. So, but people really, when they hear that number of 5 a.m. or 4:30 a.m., they kind of get like, oh, I can never do that, right? So one, I want to ask you this. You told me you couldn't do it at one point in time in your career, right? How did you get over that hurdle? And more importantly, what I want you to touch on, if you don't mind, is the importance of the evening, the night before. A lot of times we focus just on the morning, right? But your preparation for your evening to prepare yourself for the next day, please walk us through that.
Yeah, or Jim Rohn, godfather of personal development, he talks about like you have to finish the day before it starts. And that I love nothing more than waking up with my to-do list written out, with my schedule physically handwritten out, and knowing that like, okay, I'm gonna get up, drink water, go to the gym, meditate, do these things, and then I'm gonna go boom, boom, boom into the day. So I think it gives you that time to reflect. It gives you the time to look through I think all of us have, I know you call it the parking lot, I call it the collection bucket, like all the things that add up in the day. It's to look at the whole master list and say, okay, how can I prioritize these things to pick out the 5 or 6 things? Some may say 1 or 2. I'm going to say 5 or 6 because I think that has worked better for me, to then pull over to the next day. And then I look and take it down to the next level, which is, okay, these are the 6 things that need to happen. Like, what does my schedule consist of tomorrow? So I pull up my calendar, the digital calendar, and then I figure out where I'm going to do those things around the appointments and things that I already have scheduled. And then if things don't get done, they go to the next day. But I think just being purposeful about spending time, like reflecting on how the day went, what you did well, what you didn't do well, where there's room for improvement. That's huge. And one thing I'm doing now, which I've been sharing this with a lot of people because it's been super impactful to me, is at the end of every day, I'm either thinking or writing. Some days it's writing, some days it's thinking, but I'm going through the day and I'm thinking, okay, what were all the things today? Let's say 3 to 5 things that gave me energy. And that might be something like this. Like, this gives me energy, right? Like writing getting a contract accepted gives me energy. Like masterminding with an agent with KWYP gives me energy. So I'm writing these things down. And then I'm also writing, what are the things today that sucked my energy? And that was writing that contract or having that difficult conversation with a client, whatever the thing is that you just didn't really want to do, but you had to do. And then, so what starts to happen is you start to understand, like, okay, these are all the things that suck my energy. And then what the idea there is that you delegate, eliminate, or automate any of the things that don't give you energy. So then you can focus your time doing things that do give you energy. So that's been a huge thing and the goal, I think, is to get to the point where you can just fill your days with all the things that give you energy. And then that's how you build a business, is by delegating the things that don't give you energy and scaling that to other people or scaling that to a system or a process. So I'm slowly coming around to the fact that that's really what works. And I think now more than ever, like my energy management is more important than my time or my return on money, like my return on time or return on money, because without your energy, like it's just, you got to be very conscious of how to keep that meter full, essentially.
Spoken like a true pro, my man. Great job. Hey, okay, so let's talk about when I was in the actual mornings and how you got over it, right? Getting up at 5. I remember about, 14, 16 months ago when you were like, Joe, hold me accountable. And I was calling you every morning, and some days you were waking up and some days you weren't, right? So
like I said, it still happens sometimes. So
yeah. But how did you get over it? Did you just make a commitment? Did your mindset shift? What was the turning point for that?
Yeah, I mean, so I think what happened is, I've never really been asked that question, I guess, but I think what happened is I started seeing the proof of stacking up a few good days in a row. I started to see, like, what I like to call, like, I started to feel myself and this goes back to the energy that we just talked about. Like I started feeling myself get into this like state of flow. When I woke up, I didn't feel rushed. I was able to do the things for myself I wanted to do. I was able to take my time with my workouts because, like I said, that's something I'm passionate about and I love to do. And then that, I think, linking 3 or 4 of those together, it's like, oh, wow, if I can just vibrate at this frequency forever, like what I had before is just light years away, you know? So seeing the glimpse of like, oh, wow, like think about how much further you can go if you stick to this routine. That then inspired me to be like, even though it sucks waking up and that first hour that you're awake, it's like, oh, this is terrible. You know that an hour later, you're gonna be so happy that you woke up early to do it. Yeah. And you got another 3 or 4 hours every single day to get things done. You know, I love the feeling of working when no one else is working. So like when I feel like I'm getting ahead and other people are standing still or they're just not putting in as much effort, like that I think is one of my superpowers, is that I'm willing to kind of, you know, wait it out and play the long game.
Watching you through the years, Jordan, you know, you and I talked a lot earlier about what I was told, and you know what I would tell you is, hey, perfection is overrated, and it's progress, not perfection, right? And I have seen you grow, and you have grown with that mindset of being like, hey, as long as I'm making progress and it's not perfect, but you wanted it to be perfect in the beginning. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
I remember it. You wanted it to be perfect, but you grew towards where you're at, and you still have that mindset. So that's awesome. So Shoes, I'm going to end with this. Shoes sent a little in the chat room. He said, why do I feel like I'm looking at the future of real estate? So you're 29 years old. You're accomplishing all that you're accomplishing. I, you know, have the fortunate, you know, honor of coaching with you once a week. I believe you're the future of real estate. What do you think real estate looks like in 5 years?
First off, thank you both. That's super humbling. I know that's not the right word of choice there, but yeah. But I also know that that's the direction I want to go to. So I appreciate other people recognizing that. Future of real estate in 5 years, I think is going to go, wow, another big question. But I think teams are definitely, the business is going to consolidate overall. So I think not only on a brokerage level, but on an actual team level, like individual agents aren't going to be able to compete as well. Because you're dealing with these huge forces that you just can't compete. You can't provide the same level of service to people as you can if you have a bunch of experts working on it together. So I think that's one thing, like really you either got to join a team or you got to build a team. And I'm definitely on the path of wanting to build that. And then I think in general, we're going to see a lot of disruption in commissions. I think that's pretty well understood and agreed upon around the industry, is that we're going to have to start building other sources of income. And honestly, this whole pandemic was kind of an aha, or like a kick in the butt of like, oh, wow, like you don't have a business today. Like you're not making money right now because you're sitting at home and people can't get into properties. I mean, here and there you are, but I realized that I need to build residual income, and I need to have diversification, because we never know when the next coronavirus is going to hit or the next world war. Like, so really harnessing like the verticals of real estate and finding opportunities to make money throughout the consumer process. Yeah. Someone talked about it the other day, but it's the customer journey. So figuring out how you can build companies within the customer journey to create raving fans in the marketplace. And then with that raving fan database, I think that's going to become the most important thing for every single individual, is what their database is. And that will allow them to then go whatever direction they want to go in.
JP, I love you, brother. You're a good man. Thank you for being a visionary. Thank you being for the future of our real estate. Guys, that is a wrap for this week. I just want to take a little poll here really quickly, because I've never met people who, thanks JP, but I'm going to go into Monday here. I've never met anyone say anything bad about the two people that we're going to talk with on Monday. And that is Julie Dorger and Sarah McCarthy. All right. We are super pumped to have those two on Monday leading us in another conversation. They're going to basically talk about how they're pivoting right now, you know, how they are pivoting right now with, you know, the height supposedly here. And we're going to be coming out of this, who knows when, whether it's 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. They are going to talk about how they're pivoting. So you're definitely going to want to chime in on that on Monday. So you guys, thanks for being here all week. We appreciate you. Have an awesome weekend. Love you guys. Stay safe. Stay healthy. JP, you're the man, bro.
Thanks again.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.